And so when you're able to get into altered states at will, it brings you much more creativity, much more flow and fluidity in your life. It makes life much more interesting. Hey guys, I'm Jonathan White. I'm here to help you master your sexual energy so you can manifest your ideal life. If you want to learn more about sexual and self-mastery, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified when I release new videos. Make sure you get my free ejaculation control guide through the link in the video description below. So in this video, I'm going to share some information about altered states, my own experience in exploring this topic, and how you can achieve these yourself. So what do we mean by altered states? So most of us throughout our daily lives are functioning in a certain state of consciousness, a certain mind state, a certain perception of the reality around us, right? And in this overstressed, overworked, busy, distracted modern world, most people are functioning at a very base level of consciousness. They're in fight or flight mode. The sympathetic nervous system's taking over, because they're stressed out, they're living in fear, they have a million things on their to-do list, they're not sleeping well. And so this causes you to, experience life from a very specific point of view where it's all about survival mode. It's all about, I need to get more money, I need to feed my kids, I need to survive the pandemic, whatever, these very base level consciousness experience. And that's fine, it is what it is. So when you have this certain sort of reference point for how you interact with reality, how you perceive reality, because in truth, what we think that we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're feeling, what we're tasting, smelling, these are all illusions. This is our sensory perception from the energy field, the quantum field that we're living in, right? And different people's bodily systems and minds will translate this information differently. So nothing is actually fixed in place, in physical reality the way we believe it is. Everything, our bodies, the objects around us are 99.9% empty space. This means that, again, our physical reality is actually an illusion. And we are living in this quantum field where we are interacting with these energy fields. And again, it's just our body's interpretation of these signals that are coming in that forms these fixed images and sensory perceptions we have. It's very much like the internet, for example. The internet, you get on your computer and you're looking at videos, you're listening to music, you're looking at photos, all these things that kind of seem like they're fixed in place and they're concrete. But in reality, all of this is just energy fields of information, electromagnetic fields, literally moving through the air, stored on the cloud, transmitted through Wi-Fi. All the information that ever has been and ever will be on the internet is literally floating through the space of your room right now. It's moving through your body, but you can't perceive it until you have the right instruments to perceive it, which is your computer, right? Your smartphone, whatever. It takes this information and translates it into images, into music, into photos, whatever, right? Our reality is exactly the same way. We take these signals that are being broadcast through this energy matrix we live in, and that's where we get our vision, the sounds that we hear, the things we feel against our skin. These are all our body's translations of information, but they aren't always accurate, right? And what we actually perceive from our very limited sensory perception is about 1% of the full spectrum of what's actually happening. Our brain receives so much information that it filters it down to about 1% or less of what's coming in. So that means that what we think we perceive, what we think we see, what we think is reality is actually only a very, very, very small percentage of what's actually out there. So getting into an altered state basically means that you are outside of your normal day-to-day consciousness. You're outside of that fight or fight, survival, I have a million things to do, what am I gonna do next, what am I gonna cook for dinner? You're out of that mind state and you reach a different level of consciousness, and often a higher level of consciousness based on what's happening in the moment, based on pure experience. Much like how we were children, everything was brand new to us. Everything we experienced was this new, exciting experience, right? Time went by slower because we were so engaged in our surroundings. We were so engaged in what we were doing because it was this fresh, new experience. But as we become adults, we start to lose that ability to use our imaginations, to make life a game, to play, to interact with the world around us with excitement and wonder, because we start to become rigid. We start to get these fixed belief systems like, well, I'm supposed to have a job and have a wife and have kids and I'm supposed to please these people. We stop playing with the life force and we start to become a slave to it. And so we lose this wide open state of playfulness, of joy, of creativity, of wonder for the incredible journey that life is, right? And this is where we start to lose our interest in life. Everything becomes a routine. Days and years go by incredibly fast, and we're no longer engaged in life with that pure presence consciousness that we had when we were children. So when you can get yourself into an altered state, then you can recapture that presence, that creativity, that joy, that imagination, the ability to make life a game, to have fun, to explore, to create. So how do we actually get into these altered states of consciousness. There's many ways of doing this. The most common one is probably taking substances, taking drugs. Why do people take drugs? Because they change their viewpoint. They alter their consciousness. They cause a perception of the world that is different from their normal day-to-day experience. For example, when you smoke a joint, you get high, your senses become amplified. Everything becomes more intense. Colors are more vivid. When you watch a movie, you feel the emotions strongly of what people are experiencing in the film. When you listen to music, you notice all these nuances and details that you may have never noticed before. You really experience the emotion, the quality of that musical composition. So marijuana is it's a common substance of choice for people because of these things. Just as well as psychedelic drugs are very popular because they very significantly alter your perception. They remove some of these filters from your brain that are, all this information that's out there that your brain is otherwise kind of filtering out. You start to open up these filters and more information gets processed. You start to see colors you've never seen before. You start to have thoughts you've never thought of before. You start to interact with other dimensions of existence, the astral plane, which gives you the impression that you're hallucinating, but in reality, you're just limiting your filters and experiencing more of what's actually out there. People report having death-like experiences, out-of-body experiences, making contact with extraterrestrials while under the influence of psychedelic drugs. These things have been used ritually by shamanic traditions, by indigenous cultures for hundreds and thousands of years for this reason, to alter their perception of reality, to gain certain insights, and to gain creativity. Alcohol being another common way for people to alter their reality, but alcohol has kind of a numbing effect. I think that this is so popular because people are so stressed. Alcohol kind of blocks even more of your perception of reality. So it puts you in this very numb state. Your inhibitions are lowered because you just don't care. Obviously, there's many other substances as well, but these are some of the most common ones. So the benefits of these things is that it's an easy way to change your state, but the negative effect is that you start to rely on this substance, and usually they have side effects. You can't often interact with society when you're on these things. You can't go to work on drugs, and you start to rely on this substance, right? It can become an addiction. You start to rely on it just to feel normal, or you become so obsessed with the way it makes you feel that you can't feel normal unless you're on that substance, right? So you start to develop this codependent relationship on an external thing, which may not always be available and which may be causing other problems in your body and your mind. So for me, drugs are not the most effective and sustainable way of being able to induce altered states at will. What I find personally for myself to be more effective, to be more sustainable and overall enjoyable integrating into my lifestyle, is more natural ways of getting into altered states. Physical exercise being a very obvious and simple one. The runner's high is a very common thing, right? When you do cardiovascular exercise for long periods of time, when you get through the initial kind of burn and fatigue that you experience, you kind of get to this other threshold of this heightened clarity, blissful feelings, a lot of insight, a lot of creative ideas and things like that. So, all these endorphins being released in your body, your circulation's improved, your thoughts get much more clear because you're more oxygenated from the blood rushing through your system. And that leads to an altered state of consciousness. It can be very mild, but it's very profound. This is why physical exercise is so important. It helps you to get into these natural states of clarity, balances your mind and your body, makes you feel much better. So that's a very simple kind of surface level experience, I would say. Beyond that, we have more kind of specialized practices, right? Breath work. Breath work is a very powerful and effective way to get into altered states. Our mind, our body, and our breath are intimately connected. When you feel anxiety, for example, right? Something triggers you and you start to feel anxiety, your body tenses up, and then your breath becomes shallow because your body's tensing up. So these things are connected. So by working with the breath, you can use this in a way that starts to alter your brain chemistry, alter your body chemistry, and get you into some very profound altered states. Breathwork practices were one of the first tools I learned to get into altered states, to get into very profound states of consciousness that for me rivaled some of the effects of psychedelic drugs without the negative side effects. Breathwork practice being, of course, like Wim Hof method, which is very popular, but there's also many other, pranayama techniques from yoga, which a lot of Wim Hof work is based upon. There's Taoist breathing techniques. Holotropic breathwork specifically is a very powerful practice for achieving altered states of consciousness. I teach a practice which I call transformational breathwork in my 6-week course, Multi-Orgasmic Man. And this is a practice where you do very intense breathing for long periods of time, 20, 30 minutes. You get into such an altered state that it literally feels like you're on LSD or something. That's what people have told me, and that's what I've experienced myself. You start to have these out-of-body experiences. Your whole body gets tingly and electrical. It's an amazing experience. So this is what you can do just with the power of the breath. Internal energy practices are also very, very effective at getting you into altered states. So things like Qigong, Tai Chi, and some forms of yoga, because they require a certain concentration within your body. They require a certain relaxation in your body and your mind. So when you're doing a meditative practice such as Qigong for a sustained period of time, you start to get into a very altered state. When you start to get the Qi flowing through your body, as it moves through your physical body, as it opens up your energy channels, it changes your brain chemistry, changes your body chemistry. You get into very, very blissful states of flow, of clarity, of calmness and relaxation. And this is the perfect tool to unwind after a stressful day. Most people come home after a stressful day and they drink alcohol, or they go on Pornhub, start watching porn, kind of these addictive outlets, which ultimately cause more problems in their life to be dealt with, right? But when you come home from work stressed out, you do some breath work, you do some Qigong practice. It's a very holistic way of dealing with stress. When I do Qigong, it feels like there's nothing out in the external world. It's just me in my body, in the Qi field, and feeling the Qi moving through my body, feeling the internal energy, that electrical, hot, radioactive, hydraulic fluid type of feeling as the Qi moves through my entire body. It feels phenomenal. It's a great body high, we could say, right? And it permeates into the head and alters my consciousness, brings very, very powerful, blissful states. So Qigong is an amazing tool for easily achieving altered states. I have a whole playlist on Qigong practices, so you can check that out. Meditation is another really phenomenal tool for exploring altered states. Meditation definitely takes some training to be able to have any significant, experiences with. Mostly in the beginning with meditation, you're just learning to calm your mind, to not fixate on the random thoughts that are popping into your mind, to stop that constant stream of the monkey mind. And once you're able to release that constant mental chatter, you get into this deep state of profound stillness, often profound clarity. Sometimes you have certain insights, you have certain downloads, as people say, of information, creative ideas, all these things that can come through when you're sitting in stillness. It's like in the Taoist classics, they say that we empty the mind so that it can be filled with the Tao. And what that means to me is just that when you release all these really nonsensical thoughts, like so much of what we're thinking is just this repeated programming, things people have told us, things we've experienced, shallow experiences, things that we saw on the news, just running through our minds endlessly on loop. These are very base level thoughts that really aren't going to bring that much fulfillment to your life. And so when you release this empty mental chatter, then you start to connect to a higher frame of consciousness. You start to connect with that universal current of consciousness, which is omnipresent. It's everywhere all the time. We could call it the higher self, the higher mind, God, source, whatever. But when you learn to empty your mind, then the mind naturally starts to, we could say, plug in to the internet of true source consciousness. And that's where we really tap into very high levels of creativity, of insight, of spiritual awakening, of overall bliss and presence. So these are some of my favorite tools for exploring altered states. And so I definitely encourage you to, find one or more of these things, start practicing them, start taking a little bit of time throughout the day to practice these things and notice what they do for you. Once you get in the habit of being able to use these practices to experience altered states of consciousness, then you can get into these states much quicker as you train more and more, and you can start to sustain these states for longer and longer throughout your day. What I really loved about my Qigong practice was that the bliss, the flow, the creativity, the insight, the groundedness, and the high energy that I felt during my practice, it started to overflow into the rest of my day to the point to where sometimes I feel high 24/7 for my Qigong practice. So that's how powerful it can become. But these things require training. It's not an easy fix like just taking a pill or taking a drug. It's not an instant gratification outlet. It's something that you must do every day, develop skill, develop discipline. It's a true kung fu, right? It's discipline and a skill attained over a period of consistent training. But when you are able to do that, that's when you reach really the superhuman levels, right? The genius levels, the incredible, creative, fluid states of consciousness at will. And if you want to explore some really powerful tools for getting into altered states, cultivating energy, check out my Immortal Energy Arts online academy. Find more information through the description of this video. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. What are your favorite tools for exploring altered states? Have a great day, my friends.